I think you're going to continue to see this. Unfortunately, we're up to about 20,000 layoffs in the industry from late last year to this year. What I'm getting reported at the C level from studios is that cash is king. That you can no longer rely on cheap funding for games. It's just not out there anymore. Interest rates are way too high right now,
Yeah.
and so the games have to turn a profit. And I think this is happening in Hollywood too. And in preparation for that, they're cutting the fat and they're cutting a lot of jobs. And the other thing that's happening is game teams have gotten too big and too bloated in size.
Yeah, yeah.
Extreme levels, 600 people spread over eight to 10 studios. It's really unwieldy, and I think you can do it with a lot less. The I think people probably the tech industry started this off. I think Elon, let go most of Twitter and did a purge there, let people go, and people self-selected to go too because they were so mad at him.
Yeah.
And he was able to demonstrate that he could be fully productive and actually been delivering features faster than ever before. And everyone predicted that Twitter would just die and it would break. Journalists were like, "Yeah, that's it. That's over. He can't function anymore." And they were all wrong. And so the tech industry took note, and they've been looking to trim the fat for a while too because of the increased business pressures, right?
Right.
And now you're seeing it with games. And the one encouraging thing I can tell you is that this disproportionately affects the activists. So not I'm not saying they're targeting activists. That's not what's going on. But they know that it will get a good swath of them because C-level execs at studios are fed up with people who don't want to work. And the people who don't want to work or just insist on working at home, put up the biggest stink about coming back into the office, have low productivity anyways, even when they're working remote. And this is a good way to get rid of all those activists that they hired up in 2019 and 2020 when they had to staff up so quickly to fill COVID demand. So this is going to continue. And I think smart execs in the industry are going to realize that you'll make better games with smaller teams because you can't maintain a cohesive vision with with huge teams like that. I think you got to dial it back, and you're going to have to look at things like AI assisted tools to help you with things like motion capture and dynamic content. I think is really exciting. I'm not saying replace artists. I think artists can, my stick has always been artists can use AI tools to be productive, and the best artists are going to use it. Just like Photoshop. When Photoshop was adopted, it was extremely controversial. People were saying, no, 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 you got to hand draw this stuff. You guys probably don't remember this, but it was a big thing. And people were saying Photoshop art isn't real art. And
No,
of
I
course
remember
now,
that.
everything is made in Photoshop. All concept art's made in Photoshop. All marketing materials are made in Photoshop. That's going to happen with AI too. So I think a combination of culling the fat is really overdue in the industry. They got really big and bloated during the COVID era, and
Yeah.
you're going to see more. You're going to see more because they're going to look at the game receipts coming in, and they're not going to be enough, especially if people take my advice, 2 years to stop the spread of woke in games. And not just woke, but I'm not talking about predatory monetary monetization policies, poor products, things like this. Stop buying AAA games that from companies that hate you and abuse your money, and put it elsewhere. Put it into your Steam library. Go to AA games. You do that, and it's a recipe for even more self-reflection in AAA, which I think needs to happen.
It does. It really does. And you know what's interesting too about this 500 employee thing is that they let go these over 500 employees right after they purchased Gearbox. They take two purchased Gearbox recently for 400 some odd million. So a lot of people are saying that this is meant to kind of like balance that off a little bit.
Sure, it is. Of course.
Which I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Uh,
There, part of the. I don't know if that was a cash deal or cash or stock deal, but if cash was involved, they want to make that cash as cheap as possible. And if they took on debt to fund that, which they most likely did, then you definitely want to reduce your primary expenditure, which is employees, in order to service that debt effectively and not get yourself into trouble.
right. Yeah, I think we're gonna, like you said, I think we're definitely gonna see more of this. And like I said, you can point the finger at anything to try to explain why XYZ happened, but I think we do need fat trimmed. I think there's a lot of it in the gaming industry. I think there's a lot of useless people in this industry to take advantage of how they got in, right? Like I feel like a lot of these activists that we have to deal with now, these community managers, all these people, they started around 2019, 2020. They started around that time. And now now it's kind of like hard to get them out, so to speak. Um so I think we do need to do this, and I hopefully, I don't know. It's kind of hard to take faith in executives from certain companies like Take Two that they're going to make the right decision to get rid of the actual bad employees. But let's be real, most of the places probably aren't, right? They're going to probably keep the people who caused the problem still,
I
depending
think
on
Ubisoft is by far the most rampant and infected studio out there from what my sources are telling me. That
really.
Ubisoft is really swallowed the DEI Kool-Aid, and you can't make decisions without DEI, and there's tons of propaganda coming out in email and
Wow.
sessions you have to go to. It's draining on productivity. It actually holds productivity back. So yeah, by all accounts, Ubisoft is the worst, and there's no signs of them learning anything. And so, unfortunately, I think some of these studios are going to learn some very hard lessons. Now, they're not going to disappear. These are giant public companies with huge brands, right? And the brand alone can sustain you. You can trim a lot, and you can keep going. You can find other investors when you have a good brand like that. But I think you're going to see that they don't learn, and Ubisoft games are going to be some of the worst for this wokeness DEI stuff, whatever you want to call it, right? We need a new buzzword for it. But Ubisoft is going to learn that lesson last, from everything I'm hearing.
No, that's fair. I also am a little worried about Grand Theft Auto 6 because I don't know if you know what Rockstar has been saying about the way that they're going with Grand Theft Auto 6 and the way they're developing it. But you know, I've mentioned many times on many streams that my biggest issue with Grand Theft Auto 6 is not the female protagonist. I really don't care. My biggest issue with GTA 6 is the simple fact that they said that they're going to scale back the jokes and the dialogue to be less offensive to audiences,
Are
which
those
I mean,
recent, or have they been saying
no,
this?
no, it's been out for a while. It's been out for a while. They said this, I think, shortly after GTA 6 was announced. Because I remember there was massive hype, and then there was that comment, and then people started like coming down from the hype. Because that's a pretty big slap in the face. I mean, I feel like that goes against the inherent design of GTA 6, right? GTA or GTA in general. Like GTA is supposed to be not politically correct. I mean, it's not offensive just to be offensive. It's offensive because it doesn't care what you think about what it's saying. It's just the game. It's the story. It's what they're going to make. But the fact that they're going to no longer be punching down, I believe their words were, they're not going to punch down anymore. I'm like, really? That's all hype for me. Like, I immediately put you in the Saints Row category now. I feel like that's the direction that you're going, and I'm a little worried for GTA 6. But I didn't know if you were aware if the
Oh,
that or
okay.
not.
So I have heard a little bit about that. I think the GTA brand is so strong, the game's going to do well no matter what. And I
For
think
sure.
what's interesting is I think the edginess in the past that they had was really a huge marketing point for them, because people would talk about how edgy it was, and and share stuff about how edgy it was. Can you believe they just said this? Or can you believe you can do this in game?
Yeah.
Um, so but that brand's established. Do they need that anymore? I don't know. So I guess it's going to depend on how strong the core game is and the gameplay loop. Do people still want that gameplay loop? Did they do anything new to that gameplay loop? I think it's an open question in my mind. It's going to sell well no matter what. But that's kind of sad, because yeah, the sad part is that it was known for its edginess, and pulling away from that is sort of like waving the white flag and giving into this
Yep.
stuff, and nobody wants to see that.
Well, I also get to the point where it's like, yeah, they're an established brand, that's fine, but you also got to think too, what other game aside from the original Saints Row, maybe like what other game offers the GTA experience? Like truly offers the experience you can get from a GTA game. There's really not many, if
Yeah,
any.
and I think that that's powerful enough to survive on if they do some really cool stuff with that, where the city's more immersive and simulated and reactive, and all this cool stuff can happen dynamically and unfold. That will carry the game just fine, even if they pull away from the edginess. Because what worked for them before to launch that franchise was They had the gameplay loop and they had that edginess to get seen and noticed
Yeah.
in the earlier versions, and they don't need that anymore. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem for them unless they pull a Saints Row, unless the story gets so freaking woke that it's just a laughing stock, right? If
Yeah.
they do that, then they're going to have a serious problem. But I don't think they're going to do that.